I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the UP fair, man. I breathe that freezing air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.
Hi, this is Jim Islip with MSU Extension, and this is What's Up at UPREC on August 4th, 2020. Today we're going to visit with Abbey Palmer, Extension Educator here at UPREC, about the Seed Saving Garden.
Welcome to the Seed Saving Garden at Michigan State University's Upper Peninsula Research and Extension Center North Farm. This is a series of raised beds where we plant different crops that we just use for teaching youth about seed saving and about how seeds play an important part in our food system. We have a bunch of different things going on here, and the crops that I'm going to show you today are actually the same crops that school gardens often grow as part of a program called Start Seeds, Save Seeds, where those schools are able to take home transplants and seeds in the spring, use them in their school garden, or this year because of COVID, use them in their home garden, and then receive information about how to save seeds from those plants for next year. So an interesting thing about seed saving is there are certainly finer points, but some of it is almost natural because the plants themselves want to produce seeds. So if you grow open pollinated varieties and you have some sense of which flowers are likely to be self-pollinated versus pollinated by insects or wind, you can actually do some seed saving without having a whole huge bunch of background in it. The self-pollinating flowers include beans and peas and a lot of tomato species, so those are good ones to start with. The seed saving garden here has a variety of edible flowers. We've got kale and green beans. Kale's a biennial, so that's kind of a more advanced seed saving undertaking. We've got some squash, some watermelon, and interestingly, we have lettuce that reseeded itself from last year. And by selecting those plants and letting them produce seed again this year, we're engaging in a little bit of specialization. We're taking an open pollinated lettuce variety and giving it the opportunity to adapt to our climate and our specific growing conditions here in Chatham. All right, in this bed we've got some flowers in the welcome area where normally we'd have groups of students come in. A lot of people will probably recognize dill, and if you don't recognize it by its appearance, you would definitely know it by its distinctive taste. In fact, most kids, when they have a chance to taste it the first time, just say pickles. Right? They say, is this a pickle plant? We've also got sunflowers. The variety is Sonia, and we try to leave these out for the birds in the fall, but sometimes we take them and collect them and harvest them and eat them ourselves, and also save some for next year. Then we've got this Mexican marigold. This one is lemon gem, and the flowers are edible, so they make a beautiful addition to a salad. Well, we don't harvest much from the seed saving garden because we don't have anywhere to market this produce. This is not part of our GAP certified or organic certified land. This is a place for people to interact with the plants when they come to the farm during a normal year. We end up with some sort of large plants, and they make it so that we don't really have to weed much. For this one, we just kind of let things fill in and let them go. So the kale is a biennial, meaning that we wouldn't see it flower until the second year. And if this particular variety, which is Red Russian, is winter hardy enough to survive the winter, I will save seeds from it next year. We got a few different pole beans and some lettuces, and I'm actually pretty excited about this watermelon. In order to save seed from this plant, I would actually have to take a male flower, pollinate a female flower, and then close that female flower up so that a bee couldn't come in and introduce different pollen. There are lots of different sort of flavors of small scale seed saving, and one is called landrace seed saving, which is actually kind of okay with cross-pollination in an effort to produce a plant that is more resilient and more well adapted to your area. But if you're really attached to certain traits, for instance the sweetness of your watermelon, then doing some of the isolation, we call it, by choosing one particular flower that you're going to save seed from and covering it so that bees and other pollinators can't introduce other pollen, would be the way that you would go. These beans are dragon tongue, and these are going to be excellent eating. In order to seed save from these plants, all we need to do is let them stay on the vine, and the little tiny seeds that we can see beginning to develop will mature and become the same beans that you would recognize from planting your bean plants in the spring. This is the Chatham tomato, named because it was bred, by my understanding, here at the UP Research and Extension Center in a previous iteration. The literature that was published about it was published in the 30s and 40s, and it is a short season, small-ish tomato that is reputed to have a thick skin and kind of a mild flavor. However, even though it didn't take off in commercial markets, it still performs really well here, and we're quite attached to it. So these are the basic tools of seed saving. It's pretty simple. Labeling things is pretty important. You may have noticed that some of our labels absconded over the course of the growing season so far, but having a nice sturdy label, having the date, the name, and taking any notes that you want to take about your crop can be a really useful thing. We were talking about marking different individuals, so I might mark my lettuce plants with kind of a brightly colored weatherproof ribbon so that I know and other people who come to the garden know not to take that one. We also talked about trying to prevent cross-pollination a little bit. Any guesses, Jim?
What that bag is?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Oh, this bag is designed to go over a lettuce plant in order to keep insects from getting in and cross-pollinating.
What's specific for that?
This one is specific for lettuce. People make their own out of the material tulle, which I think of as like prom dress material.
Oh.
So, you know, it lets water, light, and air through, but not an insect. Some people use a Q-tip or a paintbrush in order to do some of their intentional pollination for their crops like squash. So it can be useful to have something like that on hand. Then comes the harvesting of seeds, which different colanders and different tools that I've collected from. Oh, this is an old window screen, but is good for very, very fine seeds. This is one of those, it's actually for sifting bonsai soil. When you're looking for underdeveloped seeds, that is a really important thing. And tomato seeds are an example that comes to mind. You do those as a liquid process and the undeveloped seeds float.
Okay.
This is the last part. Once you got your seeds processed and they're dry enough, meaning that they would shatter instead of tear, then your labeling comes back in, and you have some envelopes to take maybe to a seed swap to enjoy sharing with your friends.
So this seed saving garden is pretty much a teaching tool for you here at Uprec.
This is mostly just a tool for youth when they come in and visit the farm.
Well, thank you, Abby.
That's fun.
That's what's up at Uprec. Hope to see you again next time.
Mini Trout Lake, Twin Lake, Beaver Lake, Cedar River, Three Lake, Forest Lake, Little Lake, Iron River, Alpha, Austin, Allenville, Evan Junction, Cedarville, Covington, Caspian, Name, Junction, Big Bay, Dollar Bay, Nobbin Way, Isabella, Limestone, Loriem, Barbo, Lucky Fella.